Okay, the next review we are going to do is solving multi-step equations. Really quick, let's talk about solving equations. The goal is to solve for the specified variable in the equation by using order of operations. Okay, if you remember from yesterday, order of operations is parentheses, then exponents, multiplication and division from left to right, addition, subtraction from left to right. Once you eliminate the parentheses, then you work PEMDAS backwards. That is the biggest thing. Yesterday when we did order of operations, we did PEMDAS, PEMDAS. Today we're going to work it backwards, which is called SADMEP. Okay, after you eliminate all parentheses. An expression in math is an actual mathematical sentence that does not include an equal sign. An equation is a sentence that states the equality of two expressions. So when you have an expression, you do not have an equal sign. When you have an equation, you have an equal sign. So we're solving equations. That means there's two expressions that are set equal to each other. A variable is a letter that represents an unknown. A coefficient is a number attached to a variable by multiplication. So, for example, a coefficient 3x, the coefficient in this case is the number 3. If we have, I don't know, just a y, the coefficient is the imaginary 1, because 1 times y is just y. Or not imaginary, but invisible 1. Like terms with exactly the same variable and exponent. Like terms in this case, if we have 3x and we have 4x, we have negative 2x. Those are all like terms. What is not alike would be 3x squared. Okay, what is not like the black up here, the black writing, is 3xy, because they are not exactly alike. They have to get exact same variables and exact same exponents. The three like terms that I have here are this one, and this one. These are not like terms. Distributive property is a way to get rid of parentheses. So when you have a distributive property, the way we get rid of parentheses is we multiply the number in front of the parentheses by each term inside the parentheses. So here we multiply a times b and then plus a times c. It eliminates the parentheses so we can solve the equation properly. You don't always have to use that, but we like to use that. You can also do this backwards. You can distribute from the back. A times b plus a times c, which you can see here. Now, solving an equation. Once I have eliminated the parentheses, I'm going to use SADMEP to get the variable by itself. Okay, I like to, especially when we're first learning this, I like to highlight the variable. Okay, and then I think, okay, I want this on this side of the equal sign by itself, so I have to eliminate my 6. Well, since it's addition, the opposite of addition is subtraction, so I'm going to subtract 6 from both sides. 6 minus 6 is 0, so I'm just left on this side with a. Negative 12 minus 6 is negative 18. Negative 18 works inside for a, because negative 18 plus 6 equals negative 12. So we can check it. Now, a fraction with a variable. How do you get rid of a fraction? This is important. We're going to use this a lot throughout Algebra 2. To eliminate a fraction, you're going to multiply by the reciprocal. Reciprocal might be a word that you haven't heard a lot. Reciprocal means you're just going to flip the numerator and the denominator. Okay? I'm going to take the numerator, flip it, put the numerator on top, put the denominator on the bottom. So in this case, I have 3 on the top and 2 on the bottom. And here I have 3 on the top and 2 on the bottom. When you marry the tops here, and I like to show students this, because yesterday we learned how to multiply fractions, marry the tops, marry the bottoms, I have 6 over 6, which reduces to 1. And then you just have 1g, or just g. Okay? And here I have to put negative 12 over 1, and I'm going to multiply it by 3 over 2. Now you can cross reduce here if you'd like. I'm just going to go ahead and marry the tops, marry the bottoms. So I have negative 36 divided by 2, or over 2. And this just becomes 1g, or just g. Negative 36 divided by 2 is negative 18. Okay, to check our work, we just put negative 18 in there. So 2/3 times negative 18 over 1 equals negative 12. Well, let's try it. Marry the tops. Negative 18 times 2 is negative 36 divided by 3 is negative 12. So it checks out. All right. Solving for the variable here. Oops. Z. First thing I need to do is eliminate the parentheses, which in this case I did. Okay, so now I need to get Z by itself, so I'm going to use SADMEP, which is PEMDAS backwards. I'm going to get rid of all subtraction and addition first. The problem is here we have minus a negative 6, which can be tricky. When you have two negatives, you're going to go ahead and change that to positive. So we have 2Z plus 6 equals 9. So now, when I go to eliminate my positive 6, the opposite of 6, or to eliminate that, I'm going to subtract 6 from both sides. So I'm left with 2Z equals 9 minus 6 is 3. Still solving for Z. I have my 2 in front. The opposite of multiplication is division, or 2 divided by 2 would give me 1, which is what I ultimately want. We're going to divide by 2. 2 divided by 2 is 1, which I'm left with 1Z. 1 times Z is just Z. And then this does not divide evenly, so we're just going to leave it as a fraction, which is what I want to do. So I'm left with Z equals 3 over 2. Plug that back in. So I have 2 times 3 over 2 minus a negative 6 equals 9. Marry the tops, marry the bottoms. 2 times 3 is 6. 1 times 2 is 2. Remember, two negatives, you can change that to plus a positive if you want. So 6 divided by 2 is 3. 3 plus 6 is 9, and that checks out. Now, here, before we go ahead and solve, we have to get rid of the parentheses. We're going to use a distributive property like we talked about before. So I'm going to go ahead and distribute my 2 here. So I have 2 times negative 3 times A is negative 6A. 2 times 5 is 10. Negative 4 times A is negative 4A. And negative 4 times 4, or positive 4, is negative 16. Now notice we have an A value on both sides of my equals equation. We have two A's. Since they're like terms, like we talked about earlier, like terms have exactly the same variables and exactly the same exponents, and these do. We can go ahead and combine those. Now I always like to look and try to get positive numbers, so instead of adding 4A to both sides, I'm going to add 6A so that I can make it a positive number. That's just a trick that I like to do. So I'm going to add 6A to both sides and combine like terms. Eliminate so that we only have 1A, so I can solve for it. So I have 10 equals 2A minus 16. Now we have 1A left because negative 4A plus 6A gives me positive 2A. So here's my A. I'm going to add 16. Because I'm going to get rid of subtraction and addition first, because we're solving an equation for A. 10 plus 16 is 26. And now how do I eliminate 2? Divide by 2. So I divide by 2, so I have 13 equals A. Go ahead and check your answer. So I have, extend this, so I have 2 times negative 3 times 13 plus 5 equals negative 4 times 13 plus 4. I don't have to distribute this time because I can just simplify. So I have 2 times negative 29 plus 5 equals negative 4 times 13 times, or excuse me, 13 plus 4 is 17. Negative 29 plus 5 would be negative 24. And negative 4 times 17, 68. And this one times 2, no, that can't be right. Negative 68 and 2, this is wrong. What did I do here? Oh, I know. These two, that's not 29, it's 39. Ooh. There we go. this would not be negative 24, this would be negative 34, which times 2 is negative 68. See, that's why we always check. So this is correct. All right, let's solve another one. Same thing here, we're going to go ahead and distribute, get rid of our parentheses so that we can get one variable on the same side. So I'm going to distribute like we talked about earlier. So we have 3 times x plus 3 times 2. Now here be careful because you have this negative sign in front. Make sure we're subtracting everything. So we have to subtract this one and we have to subtract this one. So we have negative 5 minus 2x, and then negative 2 times negative 3, or minus negative 6, which is actually a positive 6. All right, so I'm going to get my variables on the same side. Since I like to keep positive variables, I'm going to go ahead and take the negative 2 to the other side. So I'm going to add 2x to both sides so that I have one variable on one side or the other. It doesn't matter which side. 3x's plus 2x's is 5x's. And this is going to cancel. Now I can go ahead and simplify that since those are like terms. It's just a constant. So I have 1. So I have 5x plus 6 minus 6. So 5x equals negative 5. And divide by 5. I have x equals negative 1. Okay? Get rid of subtraction and addition first here, and then divide second. So basically, to solve an equation, you're going to use the order of operations backwards. Get rid of your subtraction, addition, and then your multiplication, division. When you have something that looks like this, okay, this is just division, okay? To get rid of a divided by 3, I can go ahead and multiply both sides by 3. Just be really careful because of this negative sign here. Remember, a negative times a negative is a positive. So when I multiply this side by 3, if I make that a negative 3, a negative times a negative is going to be a positive, which will eliminate that negative sign, which is ultimately what I want. So I'm going to multiply this side by negative 3, but I'm going to put it over 1 so that I can marry the tops, marry the bottoms. This is just going to cancel here because negative 3 divided by negative 3 is 1. So I have x equals, marry the tops, marry the bottoms. So now to reduce your fraction would give me negative, divide by 3, negative 4/3. Okay? Now to check this one, it's tricky, so I'll go ahead and do that for you. So you have negative 4/3 divided by 3, which is a nightmare in itself because you have a fraction and a fraction, equals 4/9. So if we remember from yesterday or from our order of operations notes, whenever you have a division problem, you can rewrite it like this. And then we multiply by the reciprocal. So we have negative 4/3 times negative 1/3, excuse me, equals 4/9. Marry the tops, marry the bottoms, and look, negative times a negative is a positive, 3 times 3, so it works. Now, really quick, there's 2 ways to do this one. Okay, one, you can distribute this, which I would recommend here because 6 and 9 are both divisible by 3. Okay, and multiplying by a third is the same thing as dividing by 3. Let me say that again. Multiplying by a third is the same as dividing by 3. Okay, if you think about it, we talked about that yesterday, dividing a fraction, multiplying by the reciprocal. Okay, so dividing by 3 is the same thing as multiplying by 1/3. So 6 divided by 3 is 2. 9 divided by 3 is 3. So now I have a variable on both sides. So here's my y and here's my y. So I want to get them to the same side, so I'm going to add 2y to both sides. You can subtract 2y, but you'll end up with a negative. So I have 4y minus 3 equals 13. Now, using SADMAP, we're getting rid of our subtraction and addition first, because we're getting y by itself. So I'm going to get rid of my 3. I'm going to add 3 first. And then I have 4y equals 16. Divide by 4. Divide by 4. So I have y equals 4. Plug that back in to go ahead and check it. So I have 1/3, 6 times 4 minus 9 equals -2 times 4 plus 13. I'm not going to distribute it this time. I'm just going to simplify the inside. So 1/3, that is 24 minus 9, order of operations now, because we don't have any variables to solve for. So I don't have to use SAD math, I'm using PEMDAS. Do multiplication first. 24 minus 9 is 15. -8 plus 13 is 5. Now, 1/3 times 15, multiplying by a third is the same thing as dividing by 3. 15 divided by 3 is 5, which works. Y equals 4. And that is solving multi-step equations. Go ahead and try your worksheet.